Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. The bigger the headache, the bigger the pill. This is the big pill. I want to talk a little bit about spiritual transformation, spiritual growth, spiritual progression. You feel me? I've been doing a lot of work with some things that are a bit deeper than spirits, like demons and other entities and things of that nature. I've been working a lot more with the aspect of the higher self. We're working a lot more with the deeper existence behind reality, right? As human beings, full of pride and ego and habit, I forget the name of this particular bias, but there's a bias that the less people know about a thing, the more they have a tendency to think that they understand it. And on the contrary, the more that a person knows about a thing, the less they believe they understand it in comparison to others. For example, if you approach a standard Christian and you say anything about demons in a positive light, they're going to tell you about how evil it is, how negative it is, how bad it is to deal with demons, even though they have no experience with it. They'll tell you about how certain musicians and artists and authors are leading Christians to the devil and telling you to sell your soul and all this other stuff that they have no idea about, but they think that they know, right? Bobby Hemmett says, "He who studies one book studies none." Likewise, someone like myself involved in the study and practice mode, continually reading, researching, and experimenting and taking notes and building my own theories and testing them and building experience. People that do that kind of thing sometimes have a tendency to feel like there's so much information, you still don't know anything, right? Still don't know anything. But then you look right next to you and the next person knows so much less than you that it's kind of funny. Not funny, haha, but funny, haha. In any case, when it comes to this higher self type of thing, it's easy for us to assume that we know already what's to be happening, what's going on. But how can we when we haven't even dealt with it, right? How many people can say that they've worked with their higher self? And how do you know that you have for sure, right? For that matter, how many of us here working with the Goetia know that we've made contact? How many of us know that we actually have made contact? How do we know that it's not something that's just happening in our imagination, that it's not a placebo effect? And if you're part of the Magus Academy, then you know that I've said many times, there's nothing wrong with the placebo effect, because the end justifies the means, especially with magic, right? Philip Cooper says, access to power is more important than any theory about its origin. If it works, that's all that matters, right? It's a nice educational thing to go back and research the origin of it, but more important than that, the fact that it works and that you use it and get results. Back to the point. In working with this new class of entity, I come to find that the things that I believed previously about spirits has not been totally correct, right? In the beginning of working with the Clipoth and then the Goetia, I believe that these entities were actual individualized intelligences on the other side of some type of perceptual veil, so to speak. You know, maybe in another dimension, there's demons that I call forth into this dimension and they help me. That was my original take on it. But as I began to work with these entities on a day-to-day basis, working with each one of them, all 72 and beyond, right? The 72 angels and all the others, right? I began to see different patterns. And here's a secret about this reality. It is a pattern-based reality, right? If you can locate the patterns and the cycles, you can figure it out. And what you figure out is that the way to get ahead quickly, the cheat code to this game, is to slide in between the patterns, to slide in between the cycles, right? If you're dealing with anything that involves psychic ability or mind control or tapping into the thoughts and dreams of others, you slide into the patterns in between the cracks, right? Because, you know, just like it says with the Cthulhu mythos type of entities, they exist in the spaces in between the spaces, right? Dimensions in between dimensions. Figure out the patterns and figure out the gaps within the patterns. What do I mean by patterns? People's behaviors, people's thought processes. Look at yourself. Look at your cycle, right? Look at every full moon, how you behave differently than every new moon. Keep track of yourself. Know thyself. Figure this shit out. But anyways, this is a pattern-based reality. Everything happens according to pattern. And by looking at these goetic spirits, I've seen that they are a pattern of energy that is fueled by the conscious mind of the living soul, of the human, of the person. King Solomon, sun and moon, left brain, right brain. King Solomon is the wizard, the magus, the practitioner. You are King Solomon. And those 72 goetic spirits that live within the brass vessel is your pineal gland, your metaphorical third eye, right? The genie that live within the lamp that you have to rub to get the genie out is metaphorical of your study and your practice and your meditation and your rubbing of that third eye chakra. When you rub that lamp, the genie comes out, the jinn, the spirits, the 72. 72 is a multiplication of 12, which is a multiplication of 4, which is a multiplication of 2 halves of the brain, 4 elements, 12 signs of the zodiac. That's why each 72 entity is attached to a zodiac sign. Anyways, the point that I'm making here with all that information is that these goetic spirits are you. They're me, right? All the effects that I've ever gotten from a goetic spirit has actually been of my own power. But I use the goetic spirits as a key to unlock the door within my subconscious mind. Because the subconscious mind is the generator of your reality. The subconscious mind is a symbol-based operating system, so you have to use symbols to operate it. You feel me? The big pill. The bigger the headache, the bigger the pill. So check this out. Working with these spirits, figuring out that it's actually me, and these spirits are just a mask that I must wear to convince my subconscious mind to work, I begin to ask myself, what's deeper? What else is there? Is this it? Is this it? Is it that spirits are not real and all this shit that I've been talking about is just some fantasy game, right? This is where the higher work comes into play. Goetia magic is known as low magic for a reason. Then you've got the high magic, which, like I said before, deals with the higher self. It deals with quantum physics and things that exist beyond this type of physics, this type of belief system that we live in, right? So that's something that's largely unexplored in the occult, public occult community. It is explored privately in, research centers. This is where we get the whole quantum physics shit. So if you're interested, if you're interested in that subject, it would behoove you to do some research into quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and all that good stuff. But just to make it more clear for the average Joe and the people watching this video who want to get something out of it concerning this, the higher self resides in a place that exists outside of the circles of time and the cycles of the physics as we understand them. You feel me? Oh my gosh, this is so deep. So look at ourselves, look at what we are. When you really look at it with real eyes, we attach so much to this idea of me. We attach to this idea of us as individual people that matter, right? When we're all just figments of smoke. But don't get me wrong, there is substance to you, the person watching this video, the person with a real soul that's trying to figure this shit out. Not you, Mr. Troll, who thumbs down my videos for no reason. But those of you who are on the path and actively seeking this gnosis to improve yourselves and not just to entertain yourself, there's a deeper soul, and that is you, and you're looking for it. You can find it. Keep looking. But this thing that is you is the substance that is behind the mind. It's behind the body. It is the thing that's making all these coincidences happen, right? It is the thing that's slowly pushing you, nudging you, and guiding you to study this book or that topic or click on that video. Something told me to go do this. Something told me to do that. I had a dream about XYZ. That something is your higher spirit, which exists outside of this realm, outside of all these circles. And it's able to push and influence you from another realm. So, the higher self. The higher self. Outside of the realm. Damn. Train of thought. Where was I? Yeah, what are we? So, we've got these physical bodies, right? This meat suit, right? This biological machine. And it is a prototype that is replicated forever and ever, right? There's no difference, right? You get so stuck on race and white people this, black people that. That's all bullshit. None of it means anything. I don't give a fuck what you have to say about it. You've got your argument, I'm sure. But that's fine. We're all the same thing. Right? Two leg, arm, leg, arm, head. Allah. Right? The point that I'm making about this is this human animal is a machine, and it is meant to generate energy and carry consciousness within it, right? It is meant, we are like spoons. We're like stirring sticks inside of this cosmic soup, this cosmic slop. Yes, I've been listening to a lot of Funkadelic, cosmic slop. Existence is a giant pool of layered energies, all different types of energies. And whatever the fuck we are, in this perception, how we perceive these energies is through symbols. So that's why when Mercury is in retrograde, certain things begin to happen in this cosmic soup. Because when Mercury is in metaphorical retrograde, what that symbolizes is a certain type of energy is happening right now in this cosmic soup. And all of us little stirring sticks are going to begin to stir that pot and make things happen, right? Now, some of these stirring sticks are simply just stirring sticks, right? And that's it, nothing more. That's the majority of the two-legged monkeys that walk this earth. But there's another percentage of us who are more than just sticks. We are actually the hand that holds the stick and stirs the pot. And that's what I mean by the higher self, and that's what I mean by trying to reach that. The real point of this magic and this spiritual awakening and evolution is to find out who that higher self is, who that hand is holding the spoon, and to identify with it, right? Because a lot of us identify with this beast, with this animal, and they refuse to accept that there's more to anything, that they can escape the cycles of this beast, right? The flesh has its desires, right? At the lowest level, the physical level, the flesh has its desires. It must eat, it must have clothing, it must fuck. There are people who cannot get past that cycle, right? That is represented by the lower chakras. There are people stuck in that cycle, believe it or not. Simple minds, weak minds, low energy. But necessary. We must have those to do certain things. The next level is this invisible, intangible realm of thoughts and emotions and ego and personality, right? This idea of John Travis, right? I'm this dude who wears black and reads spooky occult books and makes YouTube videos, right? So now I have to carry myself in a certain way. Now I have to say certain things and be this character, right? Right? And when I go home, I have to be the father, or I have to be the boyfriend, right? I have to be the brother, the big brother, right? I got to be the son who is achieving things. Like, there's a lot of these concepts and ideas that we stick to, that we adhere to, that we must follow just out of habit. These are more cycles that we're chained within. Cycles. Cycles dictate what you're going to do. It's repetitive. It's a circle. This is why time is not linear. Time is cyclical, because we're stuck in these cycles, right? And it gets deep. It gets real deep. We talk about these ancestors who are also just ideas and concepts. What do you mean by that? You're not about to, talk my ancestors down. No. Being practical about this based on my observations and experience. You ever notice how when you have kids, if you have kids, you might say or do a certain thing, right? For example, I remember whenever there's a dog around and you want it to move out of the way, some of you might be like, get, you know what I'm saying? Get. Why do you do that? Because when you were little, your dad did that. When a dog came around, get off my porch, right? Why does he do it? Because his grandfather did it. His father did it, right? Get. That's a social meme that replicates itself through the people. So what is this ancestral energy? It's a combination of these social memes that are passed down through the family members. And you may not even realize it, but a majority of the things that make you up as an individual have come from people who came before you. It was passed down through your parents and other family members. And you don't even have to have met them, because it comes out of the genes, right? It comes out of this animal beast machine. I promise you, there's certain words and slang and ideas that you have that came from your parents, that came from their parents, and it goes back farther than you can even imagine. It's never the individual object. It's always the pattern about it. Because, yeah, we didn't have cell phones back then, but there was something comparable. And the opinions and ideas that they had about that thing is probably reflective of the opinions and ideas that you have about a certain thing. If you don't understand what I just said, let me clarify it again. Say, for example, right now, there's a lot of stuff going on with transgenders, right? So people have their own opinions about if you should be able to change your gender and all these laws and bathroom shit. You probably have a certain opinion about it based on what you've inherited. Now, of course, this wasn't an issue 40, 50 years ago. It was more the homosexual thing. So the way that they were responding back then to that is probably how you will respond today. And it continues to go back. It's all about energy. It's all about how the cells respond to stimuli. Cycles, more cycles. So this mental energy, this personality, this ego, these are all just frameworks, but they don't exist. They're not real. They're not real. They will perish when the body perishes. Now, if you have a higher purpose with your ego, then it will be preserved through art, right? Whether it's books, whether it's music, whether it's movies. It may be preserved through music. It may be preserved through invention. It may be preserved through philosophy, right? But that's not really immortality, because eventually all that stuff will fade too. You feel me? So it isn't smart to even identify with that thing, because that thing can be changed and can perish, right? If you change your mind, if somebody convinces you of something at the right time, you can change your whole outlook on life. So the personality isn't something solid. The ego isn't something solid. Likes and dislikes are not something solid. Knowledge is power. So then what is there? If my body is going to die, and my mind and my thoughts and my memories are going to die one day, what's real? This is where we talk about the higher self, which is the thing behind all of that, right? That ego shit is attached to this physical body. But this physical body and that ego are manifestations of this deeper self. And the more you learn about this deeper self, the higher you ascend. All right, so Travis, you've talked about this higher self, and you've talked about it. How do we advance it? How do we continue this process? Well, I'm glad you asked, dear viewer. Let me read from you from one of my favorite books on this subject. This book is a key, right? If you don't buy any other book in the occult that I have mentioned, buy this one, right? Because this book is like a code breaker. A lot of occult books are written with certain things encoded to lead people that shouldn't be doing this off the track. You feel me? So when you have something like the 7 Hermetic Principles, it helps keep your mind right so you can see through and read between the lines. But let me read this passage here concerning what it means and how to advance the higher self. So check it out. This is in chapter 6. Chapter 7, the all in all. And here it says, right, and we're talking about how authors create characters, right? And these characters may have lives and personalities and things like that, but at the end of the day, they all come out of the mind of the author. They're all figments of the author's imagination. In their own world, they're very real. Just like in video games, the characters are real. Just like in these alternate universes of the Marvel comics and shit. We know it's a movie, but within that movie universe, everything is real. They don't think it's a movie. Maybe Deadpool does, but he's a different case. Just like this world, right? Just like how Panic talks about Grand Theft Auto. In its reality, it's real. But in our reality, it's a game. Just like an author's characters are real in their world, but to the author, they're a story. Likewise, this body that we have, this personality and mind that we have, are characters in the story of the higher self, of the all, right? And it continues. But let me read this chapter. Excuse me, these 2 paragraphs. The student will, of course, realize that the illustrations given above are necessarily imperfect and inadequate, for they represent the creation of mental images in finite minds, while the universe is the creation of an infinite mind, and the difference between the 2 poles separates them. And yet, it is merely a matter of degree. The same principle is in operation. The principle of correspondence manifests in each. As above, so below. As below, so above. And in the degree that man realizes the existence of the indwelling spirit immanent within his being, so will he rise in the spiritual scale of life. This is what spiritual development means: the recognition, realization, and manifestation of the spirit within us. Try to remember that last definition, that the spiritual development that of spiritual development. It contains the truth of true religion. So check that last line out. This is what spiritual development means: the recognition, realization, and manifestation of the spirit within us. So just like the Marvel Universe is a universe created in the finite mind of Stan Lee and everyone else who input on it, this universe is a mental creation of an infinite mind. So what's the difference? To the degree that the Marvel Comics universe is a story written by a superior man, likewise, this universe is a story written by a superior entity, right? It's as if Spider-Man were to go through the progress and process to realize his inner Stan Lee, right? And begin to channel that inner Stan Lee and add his own shit to the story. How powerful, right? How powerful. Which is what we're doing. We're figuring out who our inner Stan Lee is, right? We're figuring out who the author is of this story. And we're learning how to channel the energy of creation, right? So that last sentence again, this is what spiritual development means: the recognition, realization, and manifestation of the spirit within us. To recognize it, to acknowledge it, right? To realize it, to really comprehend it, to think about it, and to understand it, right? And then finally, the manifestation of such a thing. Manifestation means a physical result. It means we actually tap into this power and apply it. And this is the importance of all the shit that I've been talking about, right? So before you say, well, damn, Trev, you talked about summoning demons, and then you talked about mirror meditation, and you talked about the full moon. Why we got to do all that? Why can't we just... Because when you do those things, it's baby steps, right? You begin to learn. You begin to get your own experience, because my word is not good enough. Don't just take my word for it. You have to try it and do it and prove to your own subconscious mind that it has power. And as you prove to your subconscious mind that it has power, it begins to believe that it has power. And since it believes that it has power, it begins to continue behaving like that. And it is an unfolding. It is an evolution. It is a growth. And the more that your subconscious mind begins to awaken and realize what it actually is, the more that you grow, the more that you begin to attain that wholeness of your higher self. And what's really awesome is we're all on this chain that's being pulled upward. So as I grow, you grow. As you grow, somebody else grows. We're all growing together. As I evolve, the planet evolves. The universe is evolving. It's all moving at the same time. So don't worry about people that you're quote-unquote leaving behind. Right? Don't worry about people who aren't studying it, and don't worry about trying to force it down their throats. As I've said in videos before, made a whole video about it, you can't save the world. You're not supposed to. This ain't about them. This is about you. Right? Because these other people may just be characters limited to the story. They may just be body. They may just be mind. Doesn't matter. You're the author. You're the creator of the story. Right? So, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, when we talk about psychic development, we talked about these cycles. Once you learn about the cycles of reality, right, about the loops that physical people are stuck in, the loops that mental people are stuck in, you can move in between the cracks and you can begin to move the chess pieces, right? There's no limit to what you can adjust. Trust me, there is no limit. And no one is unreachable. Because you'll come to find that a lot of these people are just characters in your story. And if you're the author, you can change the story, which means you can change what the characters do. Don't just take my word for it. Try this shit yourself. I've given you so many fucking resources. If you're still asking me questions that you can easily prove to yourself, and you've been watching my channel for over a year, but I don't knock anybody's growth. Grow at your own pace. Study and practice, right? I see that this is an issue that needs to be dealt with. This is a problem that needs to be answered. This can be a headache for a lot of people. The bigger the headache, the bigger the pill. This is the big pill. It's TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. And as always, peace.